Hi everyone, I'm Michael John Andersen. My father and I, back in October 21st, 2021, we went out to Arco, McAfee, Chalice, and Howe and met with some of our relatives and saw the places where we came from. And I'd just like to share with you what we saw and what we experienced. And here it goes.
Pleasure to meet you guys. Sylvan Andersen used to live here, and he sold. Anyway, his brother owned it, and then his brother sold it to Asa Perks, and we bought it from Asa Perks in 1972, and have lived here ever since. And one day Sylvan stopped to visit. He just wanted to see the old place, and so he told us a story about how he'd moved the house down from Leslie. And then a couple of years later, dug out the basement and had a bumper crop of grain, so they filled it with wheat, which is kind of neat. And he also mentioned that he had a daughter who'd drowned in an irrigation ditch that literally ran right across here. And in fact, we actually took out the culvert that was here several years ago. But there was a walkway that went from the back door to that light pole, and I would assume that's probably where she drowned.
Yeah.
And was over there, and I never really thought much about it, but these team of horses up in the field working,
Yeah.
and he'd head for the house and he'd say, "Get breakfast on, Bessie, I'm coming to eat."
They were dating, and he'd been out in the field working, and he came in and he was just anxious to get on the date and get cleaned up and everything, and he grabbed the harnesses off the horses and hung them up in the shed, and they went on their date. And they came home, and there was a big ruckus in the shed, and he forgot to take the harness off the horse.
Oh my goodness. Must have been the youngest or close to it. But he says that he actually spent a summer in that barn over there.
Oh, is that right?
But even this little shed has a
Is
chimney.
that actual barn right there? Is that right?
But this little shed had a chimney and stuff in it, so somebody must have lived in here for a while.
So who said they lived in that barn over there?
Janice.
Janice.
Yeah, and it's been added on. Grandpa had a dog that was there at Janice's place or thereabouts, and at the time of your grandpa's or of Joe's death, that dog just went to howl. And
Right when he died, he
Yep.
realized it.
yeah, he was.
I forget the guy's name. He lived over in Howe. anyway, it was the last day before they put sales tax into effect in Idaho.
Okay. In the
Came
60s.
over to Idaho Falls to get a semi-load of cinder blocks to build a barn. He was in the dairy business. And
Callister?
pardon?
Callister? Real in Callister?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, as he was going through Idaho Falls on the I-15 going north, his truck, the semi, broke in half right in the middle.
Oh.
And right there between Broadway and Highway 20. And I had a shop just east of there, 100 yards. And it was after quitting time. We had finished our dinner, and he called me and wondered if I could come and fix his semi. And I went out and looked the job over and went to my shop and got jacks and blocks and my welder and went out there and I'd welded down the outside of the left beam, and I'd crawled under and I was sitting on a 12-inch block of wood welding the inside. And he had told me that the truck was in low gear and the brakes were set and it couldn't roll, so we never blocked the wheels. Well, it rolled forward and kicked all the jacks and blocks
Oh my
out.
goodness.
And the cross member was right directly behind my head. It come down on my shoulders and it folded me in half right here. And as my chest would be crushed onto my legs, I yelled out, "God help me." And I lost consciousness. I do not know a thing about what happened, but somehow angels or somebody out beyond this world took me out from under that locked in position. I'd have been cut in half. They removed my body from that and laid me out under the side of the semi. And this guy who was a Jack Mormon,
Yeah.
and I wanted a priesthood blessing. And I said, "Are you an elder?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm an elder, but I'm not active at all." And I said, "Will you give me a priesthood blessing?" He says, "I have no idea how." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you how." So every word he uttered in my behalf was words that I told him. And I survived it. Took me 7.5 months laying around and recuperating, crushed 2 vertebrae, shortened me up 1.5 inches. And I got back to work and went back to welding pipeline. I welded over 350 miles of pipeline in my life.
Wow.
For farmers.
Wow.
And
They opened up a lot of that Round Valley back around toward the hot springs back in there.
And who was that?
Granddad McAfee.
McAfee.
Yeah, and he
That's up
hired
by Chalice.
yeah, up at Chalice. They put in a new ditch system upriver going up toward Stanley, and then they brought it around the cliffs and had tunnels and that come through the
well,
cliffs up there.
now Grandpa McAfee was involved in building a lot of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the one, him and Beislein out of
Is that,
Pocatello.
oh, okay, okay.
And they kind of opened up that Round Valley, got a lot of water back out into that country and that. They owned a pretty good sized operation back up through there.
So is that located at the end of the main street or going on up? Or?
No, this would be when before you get to Chalice, at Highway 75.
Oh, okay. It goes over to Stanley.
Yeah, it goes over to Stanley.
Oh, okay.
And the ditch takes off back up in that country, back up in there.
I see. Grandpa McAfee was apparently well-to-do to be involved as much as he was in so many things.
I don't know, but I don't think he was hurting.
No.
But he was involved in a lot of different enterprises. He was an officer on the bank, or owned part interest in, I think it was the Butte County Bank, and they owned part interest in the flour mill at Moore.
Well.
And from when they was down here, they shipped, they ran a lot of horses down here. Get out! They ran a lot of horses down here. And they shipped a lot of dray horses back to Salt Lake and Ogden and that back in their matched teams.
Oh, yeah.
Dad said even back in those days, they get $1,500 a team for them.
Oh, wow.
They baled the first hay in this valley. They had the first baler in this valley. And
Western movies where they are filmed in our day and age, they got baled hay representing 200 years ago.
yeah,
It's kind of comical they didn't have baled hay back then.
yeah, they ran this ranch down here at Darlington where they lived. They ran a pretty good bunch of milk cows and probably a band or two bands of sheep and 300 or 400 head of beef cows and
Wow.
200 or 300 head of brood mares, and
Wow.
part of them work stock and the rest of them saddle stock.
Yeah.
And
How many is there in a band of sheep?
there's 1,000, 1,200 head to a
That's what I was
band.
thinking, around 1,000.
So what's your name again?
Scott,
Scott
yeah,
McAfee.
McAfee. My mother used to tell us stories of Grandpa McAfee and what he did. Part of his life was build canals and flumes around the mountains, build wooden flumes that carried the water right out on the face of a rocky cliff in order to stay on grade and get water distributed down through the Arco Valley, the Mackay Valley. I remember seeing them on the side of the mountain. I haven't noticed any on this trip, but I remember seeing those ditches and flumes up along the side of the mountain.
Going through this canyon on our way to Chalice.
About 15 miles from Chalice. Wonder how much of a chore it was to build this highway.
Yeah. See, they had to carve it down here about 20 feet right there.
Looks like there was basically a natural
Yeah.
opening down through here.
Wow.
Well, I don't remember it being this far through it.